Something that you can never get away from as a company is taxes, and that is something that we've been seeing a lot of individuals asking about. What are the taxes in Serbia when it comes to setting up a business? Our corporate clients, individuals that are contemplating setting up their businesses here are saying, well, it's 15% corporate tax, and that's all I need to know. That is actually wrong, and there's many variables that come into play when running a business here in Serbia. And today we're going to get into the nitty of gritty of when it comes to what is associated with your business when it comes to taxes. What do you owe? What do you not owe? What categories do you fall into? So if you're looking at setting up a business, you have a business here in Serbia, or you just want that information to know for future use, this video is going to be for you. Now, we've set up businesses for many individuals in many industries. We've set up logistic companies. We've set up agricultural companies. We've set up consulting companies. We've even set up construction companies here in Serbia. And a lot of these individuals have different categories that they fall into. We've even done AI, we've done retail. There's so many things that come into play, and I'm glad that we have a great team here when it comes to accounting and bookkeeping and understanding what benefits are out there, what tax credits are out there for businesses, for selected industries. And today we're going to talk about some of those taxes when it comes to business. And now I have to also reiterate that this is not tax advice, this is not financial advice. Every business is different, but this is kind of a general overview of what you should be expecting as someone who is setting up a business here in Serbia, regardless if you are living here in Serbia and running that business, or that business is set up here and you're running it out of the country, which we've had a lot of individuals do, especially when it comes to logistics and working with certain countries where the EU will not work with certain other countries, which I won't mention in this video, but that's one of the reasons a lot of people choose Serbia, or simply looking to get into something that connects the East and the West, or something that just simply lowers their tax burden. So let's get into this. So some of the key questions you have to take into consideration when setting up your business is VAT. Is it included or is it excluded in your business? Again, depending on the type of business, you may be automatically put into the VAT system, and that's going to change the way you're taxed. What are the real expenses on your business? What are the salaries for your employees and for you as the owner? Are you going to be set up as an employee for your business? Are you going to be a unpaid director? Are you going to be someone who's just collecting dividends or bonuses? That all comes into play when it comes to taxes and how you're going to be taxed for that. Are you collecting foreign payments? Are there any other related companies in that industry? Or are you working with any sister companies from a foreign entity that's opening up that company here in Serbia? Because we've had individuals that are saying, hey, listen, I as a individual do not want to open up that company, but I do have a company in Slovenia, I have a company in Germany, I have a company wherever it is in the world, and that is going to be the 100% shareholder or the owner of that company, and I'm just going to simply be the director of that business. That also comes into play as to how taxes are done for your business as well. One of the other things, and I'm sorry I got notes here from our accounting team here. I'm not an accountant, and so this is all going to be specific to your business. And this is one of the things that we do when we sit down in a consultation with our clients who've decided to proceed with us, is we sit down and discuss what are the taxes, what are the structures, what are the moving parts of that business, because I myself know that me running this business here in Serbia is completely different than when I ran my construction company in Canada. You don't have much material here. You don't have much expenses as a business that I'm running here. But if you're running a construction company here in Serbia, well, that's a whole different ballgame. You are completely different from what I am. If you're doing something in AI, if you're doing something in solar, if you're doing something in agricultural, you have more tax benefits. You are able to maybe reduce your salaries by 70%. You may be entitled to tax-free holidays for up to 10 years on that business that you're setting up here in Serbia. So that's all going to come into consideration. The other thing you have to consider is the shareholders and tax residency. Are profits staying in Serbia or being distributed outside of the country? So the 15% corporate tax is only one layer out of a whole regime of things that you have to take into consideration. Now, if you are in the VAT system here is 20%. However, there are been individuals and companies that fall into the 10% category as well. So it can be reduced. But if you are at the 20%, you're going to be thinking, well, geez, if I have 20% on top, I'm going to be paying 15% corporate tax, 20% on that. Well, that's 35% taxes I'm going to be paying. Well, that is not the case in point. There's many things that come into play. Things that you purchase, you can reduce your VAT, you can offset it certain ways, and it also comes into how do you file your VAT? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly? That's all something that can be discussed at that point in time when we do set up your business and understanding how that's all going to function. Then you have employees, directors, owners, and their compensation. That's another tax layer that has to come into play. Cross-border payments, dividends, interest, royalties, certain service payments, potential withholding issues, all those things also you have to consider. And then the compliance part is bookkeeping, payroll, VAT, e-invoicing, tax returns, and annual accounts. So here in Serbia, some companies have to do their annual accounts twice a year. It's not just once a year. Again, that depends on the industry that you're in, how well you want to be kept into compliance. So a foreign-owned company, this quickly becomes an international tax issue, not just a Serbian bookkeeping issue. So we have to also understand that caveat of the whole setup as well. Now let's look at what are some examples of your deductions. So we're going to use a round number that we see quite a bit of our clients at is about 500,000 euros of revenue. Now we're going to subtract all the normal business expenses. You're going to talk about electrical, you're going to talk about rent, you're going to talk about water, you're going to talk about buying computers, buying printers, buying furniture for your office, the normal stuff that you're seeing. You're going to subtract all that. You're going to now that's going to arrive at the accounting profit. Then tax rules may adjust that number, and then the final result is going to be your taxable profit. But there's also possible adjustments in this: non-deductible expenses, depreciation differences, related party transactions, transfer pricing. So if you have another business that holds the IP in another country, but you're doing that here in Serbia, there's transfer pricing and documentation issues. So if you don't keep your ducks in a row, that's also going to hinder you, sometimes or more often for the worse, but that's why it's important to ensure that everything's documented correctly. And one of the things that you have to take into consideration is if something is being recorded as a business expense, it does not automatically mean it reduces taxable profit. So and again, I'm not a tax professional. That all comes into play, again, depending on your certain services that you're providing or your business structure. Now we're going to get into the VAT. So this is something that's very misunderstood by a lot of foreign individuals that are setting up business here. So it is 20%. Now, say the company sells something for 100 euros and you're in the VAT system. Well, then you have to add that 20%, and now you're selling it for 120 euros. Well, that's not 100% profit for the business. The customer pays that extra 20, but it's not additional company income. But then you also have the thing called recoverable input VAT. So if you're purchasing something from another business, you may be able to offset that as well. For instance, I know there's a store I go to here in Serbia. They have it in Belgrade, they have it in Novi Sad. It's called Metro. And if you have a business account, they have different pricing. So if it's an individual like myself who is, say I didn't have a business and I just walked in there, all the prices would include VAT. But if I'm going in there as a business, I would be purchasing the products that they have there without the VAT, and because I'll be reselling that, it'll, could potentially require VAT. So all that comes into play. What actually matters when it comes to VAT is it goods or services? Is it a Serbian or foreign customer? Is it a business or consumer? Where is the supply considered to happen? Is Serbian VAT charged, and is input VAT recoverable? All that stuff you don't need to know. That's something that you need to have a very well-trained accountant to do. And of course, you can't just have any bookkeeper or, accountant. They have to be actual licensed accountants here in Serbia that have the authority to go into the tax office, to communicate with the tax office on your behalf. We've had an individual saying, hey, I have a licensed accountant in Germany. Well, that's not going to work. They're not licensed here in Serbia. So you can have that licensed accountant in Germany all you want, but they're not going to do anything for you here in Serbia. They're not going to be hold water, essentially. So that isn't something that you should be scared of, but it also has to be known how it's calculated, how it's recovered. And how do you stay into compliance? This is something that is needed to be understood. So we need to keep this very high level, all right? And paperwork is essential. So we need to know, you need to keep track of your bank transactions, your incoming invoices, you need your outgoing invoices, you need your payroll, your VAT, your electronic invoices, your cross-border payments. Our bookkeeping stuff is in 5 binders over here. The only one that's missing is VAT, because we are currently not in the VAT system, but you're gonna have a binder essentially for your bank statements. You're gonna have them for your incoming receipts and invoices, your outgoing invoices. You're gonna have also your health and safety that you need to keep in compliance with as well. So all that comes into obligations. You need to have that in your office. Now, if you are using, say, one of our offices in Novi Sad or Belgrade as your address, then we have to keep that here for you as your business, just in case the tax authorities come here. You also need to ensure that you're got your health and safety records on site as well. That's something that many individuals don't understand, and they're kind of thrown off guard, being like, well, I work in an office, why do I need anything to do with health and safety? It's something that's been implemented, I believe, since 2023, if I'm not mistaken, and that is mandatory for all businesses, regardless of what kind of business you're doing. So let's get into a hypothetical example here. Say your revenue is 500,000, your accounting expenses is 330,000 euros, your accounting profit is 170. Now let's assume that you have 20,000 in net taxable adjustments. And then your taxable income is going to be at 190. So the 15% corporate tax rate is going to be sitting at 28,500 from your net profits. I myself, who ended up paying 37 in corporate taxes in Canada, find that this 15% is very refreshing, and I'd be happy to pay that 15% in profit rather than the 37,000 or 37% that I was paying in Canada, and keeping more in the business myself. Now, you may be in a jurisdiction such as Dubai where it's even lower. That's fine, but Dubai has their own problems when it comes to running a business out there, and how opening up a bank account for your business may be a lot more difficult, especially as a foreigner. So if you are not going to be doing accounting and bookkeeping with us, something that you have to take into consideration and that you should be asking the people that are going to be doing your accounting and bookkeeping is, are you doing bookkeeping only or tax advice as well? Bookkeeping, a lot of people offer bookkeeping, but they don't do the actual accounting part. They don't deal with the tax authorities. They don't do your year-end filings. They don't do the VAT filings, anything like that. They just simply take your invoices, take the incoming receipts, outgoing invoices, all that stuff, your payroll, and they put it into a binder like that, log it into a platform, and then it's on you, where we are essentially a one and done here. We have it all in-house here, the bookkeeping and the accounting. You also have to ask them, how do you reconcile accounting profit with taxable profit? Are any expenses receiving special tax treatments? So that also has to be understood, as well as what business you are operating as well. Now, one of the caveats when it comes to tax credits here in Serbia, you have to be operational in many times a certain amount of time. You can't open up the business today and tomorrow be approved for tax credits. You may have to be operational for 6 months before you can qualify for those tax benefits. So that's something that has to come into your sphere. The other thing that you have to understand is, do we have related party or transfer pricing issues as well? Because a lot of people like to have a business in one country, open it up here, and then invoice the other country business and send the profits that way without any intercompany agreements, which needs to stay there or has to be there. But it also has to be legit. You can't just say 100% of the profits go to that company and I'm paying zero taxes in Serbia. It has to be legit transfer pricing. We also have to ask, who checks VAT treatment on cross-border invoices? Who checks withholding taxes before we send money overseas? Have you reviewed the tax treaty before we distribute dividends? So that also has to come into play. Where are you a tax resident of? And there's a number of other questions that you should be asking, and that's something we do in our consultations, answer a lot of these questions when it comes to taxes and payroll and so on and so forth. And the final question, especially for our international clients, the one thing you have to ask is, before money moves between Serbia and another country, who is checking both sides of that transaction? That's something that really has to come into play. And so on closing, the Serbian 15% corporate tax rate is not the actual taxes that you're paying. There are many things that come into play. Meanwhile, that 15% corporate tax rate is very attractive, but the rate is the easy part. The structure, the write-offs, the income, all that part is the things that make or break the company. I hope that you got some value out of this video. If you're interested in working with us, feel free to reach out. If not, I'll see you on the next one.